straight away with the online safety bill and the issue of surveillance, because it's not just the online safety bill that we need to be looking at here. Now, of course, we've heard over the last couple of weeks that Signal, WhatsApp, Apple and others are opposing the online safety bill because it's enabling mass surveillance. But as I say, it's not just the online safety bill, it's also the Investigatory Powers Act. Now, the Investigatory Powers Act has been in place for a long time, of course. It allows the government to bulk collect data on your internet activity and hold it for 12 months at a time, sort of rolling 12 months. That's probably why we should all be using VPNs on a daily basis. But the UK government wants to massively expand the scope of this. So let's just have a look at what they're saying here. This will all be happening through secondary legislation. So tech companies will have to clear new security features with the Home Office before they're implemented. So if you're a tech company and you're providing a messaging service and you want to improve the security of that messaging service, you've got to ask the UK government if you're allowed to do that. That's what they're proposing. The next thing is, let's bring the next one on screen. Non-UK companies will have to apply with changes which impact globally. This is what Apple is particularly concerned about. So if they have to implement something here, that they won't be able to just have it for the UK. They're going to have to effectively roll that out across the world. For example, breaking end-to-end encryption. This is also a target of the online safety bill. And then finally, tech companies will have to respond immediately to notices rather than wait for the result of any appeal. So what does that mean? What kind of notices are we talking about? Well, there are 3 notices under the Investigatory Powers Act. The first one is a data retention notice, and that requires the retention of communications data, which might be who, when, where, and how, for example, by operators. The second kind of notice that comes under this is the technical capability notice, which requires operators to provide and maintain technical capabilities enabling the government or enabling the tech companies to respond to government requests for information, and what they're describing as IPA authorizations. And finally, national security notices, which require the telecoms operator to take such specified steps as the Secretary of State considers necessary in the interests of national security. So that can basically be anything. This may include providing services or facilities for the purpose of facilitating or assisting an intelligence service to carry out its functions. So this is bulk data collection on a scale we haven't seen before. The IPA also specifies that those persons in receipt of a notice or any person employed or engaged for the purposes of that person's business may not disclose the existence or contents of the notice to any other person without permission of the Secretary of State. And for this reason, it is Home Office policy to neither confirm nor deny the existence of any notices. So that's what they are intending to do. What we're seeing with the online safety bill doesn't even scratch the surface of this. Now, there is a consultation which is running at the moment on this expansion of the Investigatory Powers Act, revised Investigatory Powers Act notices regimes consultation. It runs until the 31st of July 2023, so there's still time to take part in this. And if you want to take part in it, you need to send a message to IPA notices consultation at homeoffice.gov.uk. So coming back very briefly onto the online safety bill itself, that has been going through the House of Lords, and there's been an amendment made to that. It's been passed by the House of Lords. And what does that do? It basically requires the government to confirm that whenever they're asking for a tech company to provide access to end-to-end encrypted material, so in other words, tech companies are going to be required under, Patrick, as we know, the guise of child sexual imagery, protecting from that. They're going to require tech companies to scan end-to-end encrypted messages, effectively breaking end-to-end encryption, but that any request for companies to do that will now have to go through what's being described as a skilled person. Now, we don't know what that means because, of course, it's not defined very well, but that's what the amendment does. Everybody that's sort of commenting on this is saying this doesn't go nearly far enough, doesn't even scratch the surface, in fact. And then finally, on the online safety bill itself, I just want to mention this from the Open Rights Group, because another organization now has had a legal opinion about whether the online safety bill is actually legal or not. And this is basically what they're saying. There are real and significant issues regarding the lawfulness of a clause in the online safety bill, which requires social media platforms to proactively screen their users' content and prevent them from seeing anything deemed illegal. the opinion finds that there's likely to be significant interference with freedom of expression that is unforeseeable, which is thus not prescribed by law. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I'd be interested to get your thoughts, particularly on the investigatory powers legislation.
Well, I wanted to comment on one specific part of what you had on the investigative powers legislation. It was the bit about if anybody is contacted that they can't tell anybody. Is that right?
So basically, the government will make a notice to the telecoms companies or to the provider of the device that you're using, providing them with one of those three notices that we talked about. And that company, nor any employee of that company, is allowed to tell anybody else that that notice has been received. So they are not allowed to inform their customer, for example, that a notice has been received, asking them to start logging data of that customer.
So effectively, the government's extending its national security official secrets umbrella to the corporation at that point. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
So this reminds me of the Stasi in East Germany. Is that the society we want? So, but on the whether this it breaches this breaking end-to-end encryption, et cetera, Mike, breaches international law here, which you've just put up. This really comes down to the fundamental argument about, you need to weigh the potential risk of a few against all of the rights and civil liberties of everybody. And, if we look back at a basic utilitarian argument there, it really doesn't hold water. So we are basically jettisoning everything that we built society on post-Enlightenment and all of the democratic systems and rights that we built up, precedent law, and it's being basically swept away here. On what? For what reason? Because of the potential risk, because of this problem that supposedly is ubiquitous, but really it is a problem. Let's not argue that it is, but is this the way to, should everybody give up their rights and privacy just for that potential risk?
No, they shouldn't. And of course, Alex, this is really about training AI.
Yes, there will be more about AI and intelligence later in this news. And of course, that's exactly what it is for. We no doubt will put in the show notes an interview we had with two experts on AI, Jobst Landgraber and Barry Smith, that talked particularly about this, that AI is binary, it's black and white. It doesn't have human judgment at all. People often get lost in the weeds with these intelligence issues and what's justified. Well, even if you're outside the US, which has its Fourth Amendment and its specified language of unreasonable searches and seizures, people will be aware that the whole Anglo-Saxon legal tradition based in this area is based on the idea that you must have probable cause. The Americans, of course, got that from the best of the English tradition. And in theory, if not in practice, we have that still in English law too. You have to give probable cause. What's been obviated in what you've just outlined, Mike, is there's no test of reasonableness, certainly no judicial or parliamentary involvement. The Secretary of State, that is the executive branch policing his own patch, says, I think this is necessary. That's binary again, that's 0-1. So the Secretary of State's judgment has itself become a kind of computer.
Yes. Okay, well, let's move on from that.